Hey everyone. I wanted to touch on spiritual warfare today. And the first thing that came up was light. We live in a world where we don't appreciate the things that are around us. One being light. Back in the old days, when we didn't have light switches, we had to resort to making candles. And that was hard work as it is, and that wouldn't even light the entire room. So I don't think when you're so used to having everything at your disposal, you don't appreciate how lucky you are until those things are removed. And in this day and age, we don't realize the miracles that are around us. Being able to give birth is a miracle. Being able to heal when we are wounded is a miracle. But we are so numbed to not see these things as they should be. We're fortunate that we can wake up each day, and each day is a blessing, and to realize that not every day is promised, and that we live in a world that has a morning, afternoon, and evening. We have light during the day, and we have night during nighttime. But can you imagine if we no longer had light and we lived in utter darkness? Would we be able to do anything? Imagine the impact that would have. We need light in order for things to grow. Do we not? Plants need light. Without light, plants. Try and put a plant. I'll give someone a challenge. Try and grow a plant in a cupboard and see how well that plant does. And get 2 pots, 2 seeds. Grow one in the cupboard in darkness, and grow one where it has a source of light, and see the difference. And I can understand why those who push God away, the difference between a person who pushes God away and doesn't accept God in their life just yet, right, in comparison to a person who comes to Christ and who follows Him, there's a big difference. And both people have their struggles, but the one who follows Christ has someone to rely on, someone who knows better, who takes care of them. The other person, though they can have family and friends, they don't have God. They end up going down rabbit holes and different roads. They are not going down the narrow path, they're not going down the straight path, but they're going all these little roads. It's a bit like walking in an alley, isn't it? Thinking you know better, and then we wonder why so many people go through depression, anxiety, and all these things. And some people go through look at this day and age where people are going through mental health issues, and their health is going downhill. But they're too good for God. I thought I was too good for God before I had the rock bottom. I hit rock bottom, and I realized that it's the other way around. I'm not worthy of God. None of us are. But He loves us, and He knocks at the door. If only we would allow Him in. We all need Him. And far too often I see people and I understand free will. of course, that is very important, and we shouldn't push things on people either. I see a lot of people who intentionally want nothing to do with religion, and I can understand from their perspective. But, like I keep saying, if they only knew God, they'd want to have Him in their lives. Because without Him, we are in an utter darkness, with no sense of direction. That's why I find it fascinating how sheep have no sense of direction. I had no sense of direction because I was lost. That's why we need a shepherd. But we think we know it all. And then we can do without Him. I honestly do believe that we live in a spiritual world, and people are spiritually blind. And a lot of people say, oh, I finally found Christ, but I think they have it mixed up. I think it's, we don't choose Him, He chooses us. And I'm not saying that I'm special. That's not the point. There's a part in the Bible that's very important that I will bring up. I did have my notes, I didn't write that particular part down. Bear with me. Romans 3:11. 3:11. So we're gonna do Romans 3:10 to 18. I'll keep it short. I know there's more to it, but I'm trying to make a point. As it is written, there is none righteous, not even one. There is none who understands, there is none who seeks for God. All have turned aside, together they have become useless. There is none who does good, there is not even one. Their throat is an open grave, where their tongues they keep deceiving. The poison of asps is under their lips, whose mouth is full of cursing and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood, destruction and misery, and their paths and the path of peace they have not known. There is no fear of God before their eyes. Especially before I knew God. I wasn't living the best life, that's for sure. I wasn't. I mean, there is no good person but God, right? And we continue to make mistakes and slip up and fall. And I look back now at my older self and I'm like, oh my goodness, I thought I knew it all and I didn't know. Well, I was very stupid, let's put it that way. Delving into all this astrology and zodiacs and divination. I remember working at a restaurant and being gathered around a group and explaining the different zodiacs, and I feel so it was so stupid that don't realize how much we influence people around us, and we have to be careful how we influence them. And our identity ultimately should be in Christ, not these stupid zodiacs. I'm a Gemini, I'm a twin. Yeah, but I will get into that a little bit later about divination and all these counterfeits, which are the zodiacs, divination, astrology, all of that is counterfeits. They don't lead you to the truth. The only truth is through Jesus Christ. Okay? But yeah, spiritual warfare. I don't know if I'm gonna sound, for anyone who's not awake for anyone who is still of the world and who lives in this world reality, that's the best way I can put it. You may not understand what I'm talking about when I'm referring to spiritual warfare. But Satan, for anyone who's of the world, why would Satan waste his time when he already has you? So when people say, I don't know what you're talking about, I've not seen anything. When you're not a threat to him, he's not going to waste his effort on you, okay? So, especially when you first turn to Christ and you change and you surrender to him, what do you think is going to happen? Satan is going to come after you. In my case, I can only speak for myself. I have seen supernatural things prior to when I came to Christ. I've seen orbs. I've seen an orange orb float in my living room. I've had 2 shadows, like a 2D shadow where you don't see the nose, you don't see the eyes. You just see the figure, the black figure. And it was 2 times. It's when I was in bed and out. The one time I was in a little room, I was in a separate room, and I was laying down, asleep, and I turned around, and it was for a couple seconds. It wasn't just like gone. But there was a black shadow standing by the side of my bed with its head tilted. And I was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going back to sleep. And I know I was awake, I wasn't dreaming. Second time happened a while after. Same figure, but kneeling down with its head tilted to the side. Just very peculiar. I think I did the same thing. I just rolled over and went back to sleep. Sometimes they will use mirrors and reflections. One time I had I was laying on the bed drawing, doing some art stuff, and I was looking through I was doing my art stuff, and then I looked up at the TV, come to see through the reflection of the TV. I had a door by my side, and then there was shelving on the side of that door frame. And I remember seeing what we would, in this world, in the worldly world, we were to call a ghost, going through the reflection of the TV, going through the shelf with its, you could only see its back with the hair in a black dress, went through. And this was with my ex-boyfriend, and I remember him saying, oh yeah, that's my ex-girlfriend's friend that you saw. And there's a reason why in Christianity we don't talk to the dead, and we just don't. That's just not what we do. That's an abomination. We're not supposed to consult spiritists, mediums, and etc. for a reason. So when people see ghosts, they're not actually seeing like dead relatives or dead people. What happens is demons take on the shape of our loved ones, and they can mimic voices. That's something that we have to be careful about. What else? Orbs, like shadows. There's been something else where I've seen a fog, like a round fog ball, when I was reading my Bible in our room, and the fog just went through the corner, through the wall, and I believe that was some form of astral projecting, or it could have been a demon, either one of those. But I don't know if anyone else has had that, if you guys have or not. Orbs, shadows. You know how in the cartoons they always depict angels and demons on your shoulder? That is a real thing. That is very real. Sometimes it's really hard to explain when you don't understand it, and when I'm potentially talking to an audience that's of this world, and a lot of them are going to be immature. I'm going to think I'm cuckoo, but when you know, okay? Satan is the accuser. So, and throughout I have to use myself as an example. When I was growing up, I spent a lot of time questioning my identity. You go through these periods, especially when you're young, of trying to find who you are in life, right? That's the big question, isn't it? And when you're getting attacked by Satan and demons, usually they will do it by attacking your identity. It's like, no one will love you. Oh, well, no one will understand you. Oh, well, you do better off on your own. It's a lot of the times they pull, because they can implant ideas and images in your mind. That's something else that I've been getting lately, because I was messing with things that I shouldn't have been messing with divination and meditating. You know, when you do that meditating, I will get back to the identity, but before I forget, with the meditation, you know, when people do like the chakras and the yoga and whatnot, I was getting involved in meditating, and I would go to this mystic store. It's kind of ironic, when you go into the mystic store, they have everything in there. They have all sorts of occult, they have astrology, all these things that we're told not to do is all, you will find it all in this store. Crystals, divination, astrology, witchcraft stuff. You rarely ever find anything. Well, you do find Buddha stuff in there. You do find religious items, but not Jesus. You won't find a cross there. That's the only thing that you won't find. You find everything else in there. But yeah, I was meditating, and I had gone to this. Yeah, so I was meditating, and I was suddenly, not realizing. Well, I might have. Yeah, was opening the third eye, and you know, like, when you're meditating, you see all the different colors appear in your sight. And then I had a black shadow figure appear, trying to bang. It looked like there was a wall that was preventing him from coming any closer, and he was banging on him or she, I don't know, the spirits, black shadow spirit, trying to bang to get towards me, and it couldn't, because there seemed to be like a protective wall. And ever since then, and this is the issue when you get into all this divination, all these counterfeit practices, you're leaving yourself open for attacks in different ways. And I get attacked now through the third eye, which I want to close. I want nothing to do with the third eye. I don't want it. I'm focusing on Jesus Christ. yes, sometimes when I'm trying to get to sleep, that I get attacked that way. I have imagery come up when I'm trying to go to sleep. And I've had an Aztec person with eyes behind him appear, trying to disturb me trying to get to sleep. And I remember in that instant where I was really struggling to get to sleep, not that it scared me, but it's just a nuisance. And I remember how do you explain it? Holding on to Jesus with everything that I had, holding on to him and not paying, whilst this figure on the left side was bothering me, and it all faded away, and I was just holding on to him. I had another if you ever have, how do you explain it? Hold on to him with all that you have. Jesus Christ is the answer. Just hold on tight to him. Follow him. Be obedient to him. And nothing else matters. Ultimately. Yeah, I did have another attack through that way. So we had the Aztec, and then like a black shadow real close, and like really scratched writing, like the Death Note kind of writing on a letter. I had like throughout my vision, when my eyes are closed, when I see these things, and I'll see loads of scratch writing, like a note, just loads of writing, and this figure close to me. And in that instance, if anyone ever goes through these things, get up, pray, and know that to rely on him, Jesus Christ, throughout any of these spiritual attacks. That's what you should lean on. Lean on him with everything, because ultimately he is your protector. Okay, not these little charms and all this garbage crystals. That won't help you. Only he can. He is the helper, comforter, advocate, Holy Spirit, Jesus Christ, God the Father. I've had visions too, but coming to think of it, you have to be very careful with, as far as I can gather, you have to be very careful with visions. I had two. I had one where I got woken up so quickly out of my sleep. I wasn't asleep. I wasn't daydreaming. I got woken up out of my sleep, like so quickly, faster than Sonic the Hedgehog, faster than Speedy Gonzales, and instantly had the red moon come closer towards me. And I was like, I've never had that before. Never had that pop up before. And then what else was it? Recently, since doing the YouTube channel, I also had another one of those pop up, like the moon, but seeing myself in the middle of suffocating, dying, and my skin turning. Basically me suffering a horrible death, let's put it that way. So I can see where I link those two together, and I'm like, okay, another spiritual attack. So I'm pissing someone off, let's put it that way. I've also seen, you also notice as well, things at the corner of your eye. Pay attention to them too, but don't let it put fear in you that that's what they want to do ultimately. You will also notice with spiritual warfare Satan has a tendency, or his minions have a tendency to, it's a bit like chess pieces, isn't it? It's a bit like, you ever play chess? Sometimes they will, because they can work through people. Best movie you can ever watch will be, there's a movie that I recommend to watch and you'll understand how he operates. Why is it not coming to mind? Let me have a look. Nefarious. I'm gonna show you guys this movie. I recommend to watch that one. You'll come to learn it, but they can work through people by planting ideas and thoughts, and people, not if they are not aware of spiritual warfare, they'll think it's their own ideas. Okay. I remember speaking to a friend of mine who was not understanding spiritual warfare and saying, oh well, that's just your conscience playing up on you. But this is what I mean. Sometimes it's really hard to explain it because people of this world who don't understand spiritual warfare don't get it. So we'll look like the crazy people, but we're not. But pay attention to this. When you're going down a particular road where God is taking you, you will notice while you're going through this road, Satan and his minions will try and attack you through people, and then all of a sudden all these people who've not bothered with you for a long time start to appear out of nowhere. And I'm not saying that people are demonically possessed, okay? But for example, people that you've not spoken to in a long time, sometimes, to bear this in mind, how God works and also how Satan works, because sometimes God will bring people into your life for a reason, right? And you put two and two together and you're like, okay, God, gotcha, okay. Or sometimes it'll be Satan and it's like, okay, you know that it's influenced. You can tell the difference. And I was going through, I'm going to keep it trying simple, but to the point where you can understand it. Where, so God has shown me a particular path to go in. And then this person comes from the side, someone who hadn't spoken in a long time, who had the opportunity to build a relationship with me. And then all of a sudden, just as I'm heading somewhere very important, they kind of come in, and it's like a distraction, trying to alter your path, your path to go into a different direction. Does that make sense? It's trying to topple you, like distract. Best way I can explain it. So just be mindful of that. Yeah, so he attacks your identity too, so back onto that. He is destructive, right? He'll try and get you to focus on being destructive, breaking you down, tearing you down, while God builds you up. But God also sometimes removes things. He prunes you. I think that's how you say it. And I find it fascinating, so I will bring this up. Sometimes I'm not the best at articulating, but bear with me, okay? Ultimately, fasting and praying. This is another red flag that I get from the Catholic Church in particular, is when they mention about, is it Ash? Let me have a look. Is it Ash Sunday? Yeah, the whole Ash Sunday thing. Like when you're fasting, there's a particular way that we're told to fast, and it's not for show. So when you're walking around with an ash on your forehead, everyone pretty much knows that you're fasting, and that defeats the purpose. In the Bible, we're told to fast privately and appear as if we're not fasting. For anyone who's interested in that passage, Matthew 6:16 to 18. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, Matthew 6:16. Whenever you fast, do not put on a gloomy face as the hypocrites do, for they neglect their appearance so that they will be noticed by men when they are fasting. Truly I say to you, they have their reward in full. But you, when you fast, anoint your head. When you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, so that your fasting will not be noticed by men, but by your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. Okay? And then praying, which we've covered on another video about the little faith, if you want to go onto that one. But you need to read the Bible for yourself if you haven't already. Really recommend it so you're not deceived. But I will do a proper in-depth video for spiritual warfare where I go through scripture and do a more thorough study. But I just wanted to share with you something that came up recently about light. It's important because we need the light of life, right? And the difference between light and darkness. Darkness is not something to mess with. And in this day and age, we live in a world that's so focused on the occult now. You have in the kids section of the store where they're selling Ouija boards. I remember a kid that was hanging around with my daughter, which they no longer hang out with each other, and she kept talking about Ouija boards and witchcraft. She would bring these potions over, and she was curious about the occult. And I remember talking to her grandma, because it was her grandma who would bring her over, and I was asking, where's she learning this stuff from? And we live in it, and this is what I mean by we're getting attacked from all sides, is that especially with the kids, look at the TV shows that they're watching. There's a lot, it's becoming more apparent now what they're now, like, now more than ever, it's in our face, right? It's no longer subtle, it's in our face. In the kids, look at the more recent movies that are coming out for kids. The Minions, that has the occult stuff in it now. There's a witch movie that's coming out. And I'm not saying that you should... Hold on. Hexed, which is now a new thing for the kiddos. Which... And especially when you're a kid, you're more vulnerable to it, right? Because it's out in the open and you think it's cool, and if your parents don't teach you correctly, you'll fall into all these rabbit holes, these things that lead to darkness. And we have been programmed to live in a world to not realize how serious these things are. We just think, cool, witches, yeah, let me go get my broom, Harry Potter. And in the Bible it talks about witchcraft. Like I said, I will do a video in regards to that. But as Christians, it's very important that we're not like, I don't even want to see light things. I remember her grandma, of the girl who was into all these, who was interested in these Ouija boards and stuff, and her grandma, when I tried to speak to her, she wasn't interested. She's like, no, I don't want to hear any darkness. And we have to understand difference between light and dark, right? In order to know what we need to be aware of. And if we're just wanting to know the good stuff and the light stuff, how are we able to understand how to defend ourselves? Like with my daughter, I try and teach her these things so she's aware, but I'm not gonna shield, I'm not gonna, completely protect her from it. We all need to be exposed to it to some extent, but not have anything to do with it. Does that make sense? Well, for example, my daughter, it's really hard to get away from all that stuff in the TV and nowadays. But she understands the difference. She understands bad from good. And although she'll be exposed to it watching TV, she'll understand, alright, yeah, I'm staying away from that because that's not good. But I'm not going to be like, oh, you can't watch that, But it's right in front of our face. I think we are living in an age now where I think there is there's a reason why everything's enhancing. More darkness is appearing, right? We're being exposed to more darkness. I think the veil is thinning, if you want my honest opinion. So we're going to start seeing a lot more things than we used to. And for anyone who's into occult practices and witchcraft, you don't understand what you're getting yourself into. If you are in all these occult practices, you are the enemy of God. And you are outside of that light. Does that make sense? And I don't think we fully understand what it's like to be in outer darkness, away from the light. Why would you not want to have God in your life? And then people spend their years of their life trying to debunk Christianity, and it is the truth. Good luck with it. Good luck with trying to debunk it, because Jesus Christ is real. And ultimately we need him. When we push him away, we're only getting further closer to the darkness. We need to spend each day reading his word and understanding what he wants in our life. And it's not all about us. We can get selfish and think of ourselves, can't we? John 8:12, 30. Jesus is the light of the world. Then Jesus again spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. He who follows me will not walk in the darkness, but will have the light of life. So the Pharisees said to him, You are testifying about yourself. Your testimony is not true. Jesus answered and said to them, Even if I testify about myself, my testimony is true, for I know where I came from and where I am going, but you do not know where I come from or where I am going. You judge according to the flesh. I am not judging anyone, but even if I do judge, my judgment is true, for I am not alone in it, but I am and the Father who sent me. Even in your law it has been written that the testimony of two men is true. I am he who testifies about myself, and the Father who sent me testifies about me. So they were saying to him, Where is your Father? Jesus answered, You know neither me nor my Father. If you knew me, you would know my Father also. These words he spoke in
in the treasury, as he taught in the temple, and no one seized him, because his hour had not yet come. Then he said again to them, I go away, and you will seek me, and will die in your sin. Where I am going, you cannot come. So the Jews were saying, surely he will not kill himself, will he? Since he says, where I am going, you cannot come. And he was saying to them, you are from below, I am from above. You are of this world, I am not of this world. Therefore I say to you that you will die in your sins, for unless you believe that I am he, you will die in your sins. So they were saying to him, who are you? Jesus said to them, what have I been saying to you from the beginning? I have many things to speak and to judge concerning you, but he who sent me is true, and the things which I heard from him, these I speak to the world. They did not realize that he had been speaking to them about the Father. So Jesus said, when you lift up the Son of Man, then you will know that I am he, and I do nothing on my own initiative, but I speak these things as the Father taught me. And he sent me, and he who sent me is with me. He has not left me alone, for I always do the things that are pleasing to him. As he spoke these things, many came to believe in him. And then John 8:31. Bear with me.